Give me some examples of what you know from what you know with all these drive stats, these 10 years of drive stats to how you buy drives. What are some of your recommendations for consumers or home labbers buying hard drives?
That's a really good question. And it does come up, and you're absolutely right. Okay. Somebody with a handful of drives or a small number of drives has to think differently. And I think one of the reasons why the data, what we do is been popular, if you will, for the last number of years is because there's such a dearth of information out there other than that. You go to the manufacturer and you could take every data sheet produced by every single manufacturer and just change the name. and, and they look identical and they almost have the same numbers on them. And so they're of very little use from that perspective. But there are some things you can do as a consumer. One is manufacturers try to match the use of the drive to the mechanics inside of it a little bit and the firmware that's inside of it, and so on. And so you might look at that. So if you're doing video recording, you're recording your video systems or something like that, that's a different use case than you might be using it where you're storing media on it, and you want to access your movies and you created a Plex server or whatever the case may be, versus, Joe person who's looking for an external drive because they have a computer and they want to put some data on an external unit. So I think what we give people from our perspective is at least data to help make a decision. Now, where else do you get it from? Okay. There's various sites that do produce it. There's folks like yourself, who work in home lab thing and say, hey, I had success with this. And I think you need all of that information in order to make a solid decision. I don't think it's a monetary one, although I completely understand why people make a monetary decision. I can buy that for $179, but that one cost me $259 and they're the same size. And I don't really have $179, much less $259. So I guess I'm going to buy that one, And, so I understand those decisions and you cross your fingers from that perspective. The other little thing, it's just the wild card in all of this. You never know when you're going to get a really good drive model or a really bad drive model. And you could buy a drive and it's the, let's just say DX000 model, right? And you bought it and it's been great. It's been running for years. And your friend says, what do you use there? And I said, I'm using the DX000. And he goes, great. And he goes to the store and he can't get that, but he can get a DX001 and it's pretty close, right? And it fails 3 days out of the box. Okay. So,
Yeah.
So you have to be somewhat precise, but you also see the personalities of the different manufacturers. Okay. And I'll go back to Seagate. Seagate makes good, solid drives that are a little less expensive. Okay. And so do they fail more often? Maybe. Okay. But there are certainly some good models out there. And it doesn't necessarily correlate to price, by the way. We've seen that. And it doesn't correlate to enterprise features. It seems to just be, they made a really good model. And the other thing I would do is if you're buying a drive I would buy a drive that's been in production a bit, maybe a year, maybe 6 months at least, and then look and see what people are saying on websites, various consumer sites. Don't go to the pay-for-play review sites because, you just buy your way up the list. Mm-hmm. But, hey, I'm thinking of using this particular model. And then pay attention to the model they're using. And then when you go to buy it, make sure you get the same one because, again, they don't have to be the same. Use our data wherever it's helpful to help maybe guide you a little bit towards where you might find the right ones, maybe ones to stay away from a little bit. But at the end of the day, that's just one piece of the information that you're going to have to dig up. And there just isn't a testing agency for drives out there.